As I found out to my great cost and embarrassment in a Broadway theatre, Lin-Manuel Miranda's hit musical Hamilton doesn't trace the fortunes of the new Douglas Park Club. There is no scene where Leslie Odom Jr. answers the phone to a Nigerian prince and loses £1 million, and David Diggs is never struck by a global banking error that occurs entirely within his own payroll department. But in the climactic scene, Miranda's Hamilton is drawn into a duel, and rather than taking aim at his opponent, he fires his pistol into the air. And it may well be that life imitates art in this case, because on yesterday's evidence, when it comes to the relegation battle in the Scottish Championship, John Rankin is determined to throw away his shot. This is the Oh No 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 podcast. I am Duncan Cameron, and for the second time in less than 8 weeks, we are here to talk about Hamilton Accies 0, Wraith Rovers 3. And with me tonight to do just that, first of all, we've got Robbie Weir. How are you, mate?
If I was to describe myself as a Guns N' Roses album today, I would describe myself as an overrated, bloated mess that's arrived at the tail end of my career. Chinese democracy.
Fair enough. That was my second choice for intro. Guns N' Roses themed. We've also got Scott Fleming as well. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, really good, mate. We've obviously had a very good and very fun weekend, having a laugh at our neighbours along the road. They've splashed the cash in the last week, getting in Neil Lennon and Victor Wanyama, and that seems to have worked an absolute treat going by Saturday. I mean, I think from maybe whenever he got sent off at like 4:35pm until basically 6-7pm in the evening was just tweet after tweet after tweet, just looking, going, everybody's just cotton on to what's happened, and you're just seeing different angles of the sending off, or just the way he's going off the pitch, and then Neil Lennon's like shaking his hand. I'm not sure I'd be shaking his hand for that. Like,
yeah, that is just a really good afternoon all round. Like a really, I was walking back to the car, but just like walking along the street by myself, laughing out loud at one point. Just like remembered, like that's so fun, so good. We've also got Allan Douglas Munn as well. How are you, Allan?
I'm really good, mate. Yeah, absolutely stuffed today after a Mother's Day visit to the Beijing banquet in Glenrothes, where I ate probably quite a few people's body weight in food. So it was, yeah, I'm having a cracking day, cracking weekend, in fact.
Yeah, good stuff. That sounds excellent. Right, now obviously, it goes without saying we are a Rovers podcast. The bulk of the chat tonight will be Rovers centric, but it's hard not to get a little hung up on Accies and where they find themselves. And also, it might be that I'm just sort of manipulating the conversation so we can talk about Victor Wanyama a little bit more as well. But that aside, Allan, having seen Dunfermline, Hamilton, and I suppose Airdrie as well, sort of relatively recently, particularly in light of yesterday, I mean, how much do you hold out much hope for the unsackable man, John Rankin and Hamilton?
On the assumption that, Dunfermline will have less difficult games than they had yesterday. Ayr away, despite their troubles recently, is still a very, very tough game. That's possibly the toughest game Dunfermline had left in the run-in. So you do think there's a chance they might catch Hamilton? On current form, if Hamilton go into the playoffs, I do not see them coming through. Even a playoff semi-final. I think they would lose to any of Steny or Cove or Alloa, whoever kind of the teams that are. I mean, Ardworth look like they've pretty much got the title done now. So there's obviously a chance, I suppose, some of those teams maybe are a bit deflated after missing out on it. But kind of like ourselves last season, they've got a few weeks to accept the fact that they're probably not going to win the title. So it's not like losing it on the last day. So they might go in with some confidence. Hamilton clearly have none. They are a team. It was the same the last time we played them. They were a team with absolutely nothing about them. They started off reasonably well yesterday, and I suppose you could argue they came back at us a little bit, but on the whole, they just look completely devoid of anything. I mean, I don't know if you saw that. I was on Pine Bovril or Twitter, I can't remember which way I read it. Some Hamilton fan claiming that with their squad, a decent manager would have had the League One for them by February. Quite possibly the most ludicrous thing I've read in Scottish football this season, and that really is saying something. So, no, quite frankly, I don't give Hamilton much hope of being a championship team next season because I don't see where they're getting points from. I can't see them going to East End Park, an East End Park that's probably going to be pretty packed next week, with it being Lennon's first home game and they're only charging a £5. Needless to say, their season ticket holders are whinging about what are they getting as well, but it's great to see all football fans are the same. But Hamilton really look like they're going to struggle. I just can't see them getting out of it.
Yeah,
and
it's funny that you say there that Aki's just been devoid of anything, because that's what I've got written down. My one-line note for this little bit is Aki's devoid of fight, because that was the thing that struck me yesterday. Is like, we know that, you know, like, with the greatest of respect, we know that they're shite. Like, they have been, and certainly have the capacity to be a lot of the time. But there's like so little fight, so little argument in them. Like, they're kind of two different things. So the goals that they're conceding, like, we'll talk about them. Like, there are people to blame to varying degrees. There's so little, like, finger pointing, so little holding people to account. And even a couple of times, the yellow cards that they got, and they're just like shrugging their shoulders and kind of slumping away. At least have a go at the referee for booking you for that. Like, whether right or wrongly, they just look so done in. They look defeated. It's really... So the Queen's Park fans are still worried. And I think you can understand why, given how bad they've been recently. I think they're bottom of the form table. They get scudded 5-0 today by Livingston in the Challenge Cup final. And you know what it's like when you watch your own team and you're very bad? You can't really be told that, like, nah, listen, other teams are worse. But, I mean, I don't... Between Accies, Dunfermline and Queen's Park, other than the games when they play each other, if you told me right now that those teams aren't going to pick up any points between now and the end of the season, like, I would believe you. I don't think that's that far off, like, being a possibility. Robbie, where are you on?
Accies play, Airdrie play Queen's Park, I think, on Tuesday, don't they, when Livingston are playing Dunfermline. So, Dunfermline could find themselves only 3 points ahead at that point, which is quite nervy.
Weeks ago, that second last day of the season, if Airdrie go to East End Park, I think within 4 points, I think they'd fancy themselves to do a bit of an escape job. Because based on what you said there about if Accies go into the playoffs, just hold out no hope for them. Because just mentality-wise, they've not got it. Dunfermline, I think, are the same. They've obviously got the added benefit that they've changed their manager, so there might be a bit of a change there. I don't think it's too late for Accies on that front. Like, if they just sacked John Rankin, and anybody, because if they get 4 points between now and the end of the season, they'll stay up. But I think if Accies or Dunfermline go into the playoffs, I think they will be so downtrodden that they'll really, really struggle. Quality-wise, individual players, I think whoever goes into the playoffs in the championships will have a better squad than whoever is in it from League One. But I don't think they'll win it. Unless it's Airdrie. I think Airdrie will have enough about them. They've not got the same, like... They'd almost be climbing up into the playoff place and take positivity into it. But if it's Accies or Dunfermline, I just don't see it. Robbie, where are you on this? If you were a betting man, maybe you are a betting man. I don't know. Answer that, and also give me your thoughts on it.
I'm not a betting man. My thoughts on it, you're absolutely right. I actually said last night on Twitter that if Dunfermline and Accies were to only pick up 1 point each between now and the end of the season, you would think that's completely believable, and that's only because they play each other next week and they're both absolutely stinking. Just they look like a club that clearly people don't want to be around at the moment. You can see that in the stand. You can see that obviously carries itself over onto the pitch in one way or another. It can't be nice to be about that as environment as a player. A lot of questions going on about how they're run behind the scenes, as we all know about, and the sort of what gets made and what gets said. But yeah, it baffles me that John Rankin can go in, and I get that you need to pay your mortgage bill somehow, but surely you're better going off and doing something else like punditry or looking elsewhere, coaching, coming in, do what Brian Rice did, where he was manager of Alloa and then went off to a club like Livingston. I'm sure John Rankin could get a coaching role in a top flight club or do what Liam Fox did and go to a B team, because it can't be nice sitting there and you're getting abused week in, week out, because let's be honest, your performance is substandard, and you can understand with the squad that Accies have built why their fans are maybe looking at that and saying, well, we should be expecting more. And then as well, at the same time, you can understand why people are looking at that Accies squad and saying, how the hell are you paying for all those players? It's just, they're a basket case. And I think that's the thing about, like, you look at them and you look at Dunfermline. Now, Dunfermline lose Connor Young to injury yesterday, who admittedly he's not set the heaven alight in the same way that he did with Edinburgh City. Apparently it seemed to be the rest of the Edinburgh City squad that were actually doing all the heavy lifting. And
Yeah, they've just not blinked at all.
Yeah, which is quite funny to see. But yeah, because we know that Dunfermline are so injury prone and that they've got a squad full of shite bags and under 23s, and that they've decided to bring in Victor Wanyama for substantial amounts of sums, and it's almost like you watch them and you see everyone getting blinded by the media sort of sycophanticism of Celtic manager, ex-Celtic player, was in the Champions League, but much like Tash and Oakley Booth, as we know, that was in the past. It's not now. He looks sticking to those American portions, we can say, now, without body shaming. I'm hardly down in single digits of body fat percentages myself, but yeah. It's impossible
Absolutely
to tell.
Brutal comparison there as well, by the way. Wanyama and Oakley Booth. I'm here for it. Don't get me wrong. I'm here for it, but it's brutal.
But it's true. What were you saying, Duncan? He's not started a game since 2023, and people are
he's not completed 90 minutes in the league since July 2023.
And people are thinking he's going to come in and be the difference maker. I think there's a big difference between someone like him and Scott Arfield coming in. Let's put it that way.
Definitely.
Yeah. Look, it's impossible to tell. I think with Queen's Park, I think they'll be safe because other teams will take points off each other. And even if Queen's Park can nick a couple of points here or there, they should be free, even if they look absolutely rotten as well at the moment. And Airdrie must be absolutely salivating at the position that they're in, that they could still, if they can get a win and they can pull it back, as you say, down into 3 points, and then you get teams like Accies, Dunfermline, Queen's Park all playing against each other. You've got to be, I mean, certainly for our game against Airdrie, by that point, you'll be thinking that's not going to be an easy day in a couple of weeks' time. So, yeah, it's. I can understand the sentiment that Airdrie have maybe left it too late, but at the same time, they've got a squad that is fighting, which is far more than could be said for 3 teams that are up above them.
That's exactly it. If you just have a kind of snapshot of the league at the moment, Airdrie are better than Dunfermline, Accies and Queen's Park. Now, obviously, the league's 36 games long. The season's 36 games long for a reason, and that's what matters. But just, if you look at those 4 teams, Airdrie I think are the best. And it's just a case of can they effectively have they got enough time left to kind of overhaul that. The thing with Accies for me is they seem the most kind of rescuable, almost, in the sense of if they had binned John Rankin, and whether it's entirely down to him or not, you don't really know. He's been there long enough that it probably is. But when you look at when Dunfermline sacked Michael Tidser, I actually, at this point, feel quite sorry for Michael Tidser. But ultimately what happened there was that the football club as a whole went, right, this isn't working. And rightly or wrongly, we need to change this. and we need to do something drastically different. Queen's Park did the same. There's weird stuff going on there because they had the guy you would want and sacked him and didn't replace him, didn't have someone else to come in. So weird. But if on the day that Dunfermline sacked Michael Tidser, if Hamilton had also sacked John Rankin on the same day, and let's just stick to the small pool for the sake of the example. Say you were Callum Davidson and you wanted to get right back in, right? So set aside the kind of going and chucking big money at Neil Lennon. If you're like, right, I'm a championship level manager, I'm looking for a championship level job, I'm a bit of a specialist at avoiding relegation, they'll probably want me to do this. And you've got Accies on one hand and Dunfermline on the other. Just looking at the quality of the squads, I think that's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. Because Accies, they're not anybody who's particularly showy. But they've got more bodies in the right places who've like run the course before, effectively. Like, you can just go back to basics, 4-4-2, and get a solid team out of Accies without having to do anything too special. Whereas with Dunfermline, you're like, God, dear me, I'm going to have to play at least 4 of these teenagers somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, if I've not got any left backs, I'm going to have to kind of juggle all this around. And for whatever reason, Accies just haven't rolled the dice. They've just let themselves do the same thing over and over again. And I think it's absolutely wild.
It's the Limmy don't back down, double down, except from it's to the most ridiculous degree, and it might cost them their status. And everyone could see it. Like, you look at that squad, and even in terms of the frontline options, you can either, if you get a new manager going in, you can get a new manager going in saying to like Ollie Shaw, like, look, you're one of the best forwards in this league. We all know this. We've seen this. You can score for fun. You did it in the first half of the season. It's all about getting you back. Then you turn to Kevin O'Hara and you look at him and you're saying, right, you've got a consistent pedigree at this level in terms of like relatively scoring goals, being able to step up. And then you go to Nikolai Todorov and you're like, you score for fun when the
against
chips are down
teams.
Against certain teams. Like Airdrie, you were knocking up these, and it was the same with Dunfermline when they were in League One. Like, whenever he came on the pitch, it was goals that were important, goals that changed games, ones that were winners. It's kind of like how, Scott, you said about Aidan Connolly when he came on, obviously last week, and how people are sort of sleeping on that. Nikolai Todorov's exactly the type of person that you could sort of say, like, yeah, he could be able to do a turn for you and be able to turn it around. But yeah, it just feels like with Rankin, it's just so toxic at the moment.
He's the perfect example, actually, of what Hamilton's like just now, because even when he wasn't scoring against us, he was always a handful. He was in the faces of the defenders. He was causing a nuisance. Yesterday, he was totally toothless. Like, he did nothing. Yeah. The only time I noticed him, other than when I booed him when he got subbed on, was when him and Dylan Easton had a wee cuddle at the end of the game. That was genuinely the only other time I noticed him.
It's an old cliche, but the first time I realised Kevin O'Hara was playing was when they subbed him off. Just had not realised that he was there.
And he was, again...
And just, sorry, I'm just going to say, just because when you were listing those strikers, they've also got Scott Robinson as well.
Yeah.
They've got 4, like, senior, proper, established championship strikers. Or forwards. Like, most teams in the division would kill for that. Queen's Park have only got 1. At various times, we've had between 1 and 3 fit and available. Dunfermline have got, 2? They're back down to 1 now, probably with Young's injury. Hamilton have got 4. That's absolutely wild. Scott, you've been very patient. Give us your thoughts on this, and feel free to just have a dig at Victor Wanyama again as well if you really want.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I can't say that I really disagree with anything that's been said in terms of the teams that are down the bottom, other than just I'm glad that we're not in amongst that anymore. We've kind of sorted ourselves out in recent weeks, picking up points consistently enough anyway, especially under Barry Robson. But I think, yeah, I can see what you say about Hamilton in terms of if you're a Callum Davidson or whatever, or any football manager that's looking to get into management again, and you were given the choice of Hamilton and Dunfermline, Hamilton being a point or two ahead of Dunfermline, I think. And
Two ahead,
but also, as you say, squad depth wise and sort of the type of players that you've got, I think Hamilton players definitely have got. If you've got a sort of better manager in there, a guy that can structure them a bit better, you probably do get more out of them than you'll get out of Dunfermline, like you've said. But it's just a case of you've got three teams absolutely void of any confidence at all. And I mean, Hamilton, it was that we've played them, 3 times in the last, was it 8 weeks, did you say?
Yep.
Twice at Hamilton, we've won 3-0 both games, and then 2-0 at home. I didn't catch it live. I only watched the highlights of the 2-0 home game, but the other two that I did watch in the 2 games at Hamilton, like, other than once we went 3-0 up yesterday, did they ever look like scoring against us in any of them games? Like, it's baffling considering you just said they've got 4 forwards that are all competent forwards in this division. One of them being only a couple of goals off being top goal scorer in the league or something. So, like, it is a bit baffling how they've found themselves in such a poor position. Other than, John Rankin, I mean, yes, he got them up after getting them relegated, and you could give him maybe a little bit of kudos for getting through the playoffs and thankfully relegating Inverness. But I think other than that, he's not really done anything that you could say that's worth keeping his job. And Robbie said it as well. He must be getting to the point where he's like going, what? Like, other than the fact he clearly just loves football. Like, that's the only thing that can be keeping him in a job. Because, like, look at the other side of Lanarkshire. Stuart Kettlewell walked away for his job purely because of the family abuse that he was getting. And that was for a team that are sitting mid-table in the top flight. I mean, John Rankin's been getting this for about 2.5 seasons, it feels like now. So, like, fair play to him. He's clearly got tough skin, like, but I don't understand why you would keep putting yourself through that week in, week out. I suppose in away games he's only getting it for about 30 folks, so it's not too bad, but, like...
The bollocks of that man, though, eh? He only gets one takeaway a year.
And then, in terms of Dunfermline, good God, I was silly thinking that Neil Lennon might be competent enough with this poor squad to actually kind of fire them up a wee bit. Nah, that when I watched Kyle Benedictus pass the ball straight to Jamie Murphy in the highlights earlier on, and then they keep going on about this boy, Chilikoa Mullen, that's playing in the under-21s. He also was part of that team that just got absolutely gubbed 6-1 for Iceland. That Finlay Pollock was a part of. He clearly finds himself a player because all the time he's always looking to run into midfield and take players on. I'm like, you're not in the type of game right now to be doing that. Like, that's fine and well if you're 3-0 up and cruising, try stuff, fine. But they're in no position to be doing that right now. And, I mean, they just look like an absolute shambles at the back. And as we've said, like, Victor Wanyama coming in clearly looks overweight, unfit, hasn't played for ages. I mean, the last professional game he played, he got hooked at half-time in July 2024. Like, I can't... I think there was folk thinking this guy was going to come in and look miles above the standard. I think that's maybe the case 5 years ago. Now, I just think he's completely unfit, and I mean, he's hardly going to get himself fit between now and the end of the season. He's got 5 weeks. Like, it's going to be the most mental turnaround if he can get himself fit in 4 or 5 weeks. But
that's exactly the thing for me.
To be fair, he might enjoy himself a Bridie or something with Stevens Bakers for the stand on Wednesday night as he watches his team get gubbed for Livy, hopefully. But I just really didn't get any of the teams right now at the bottom. Like, they're all just much of a muchness in terms of how shite they all are.
That's exactly what you said there about Neil Lennon. I thought exactly the same thing. You think, right, Neil Lennon obviously comes with a lot of baggage. He's not everybody's cup of tea, put it that way. But like, he's been around long enough, if nothing else. Like, he's won stuff. You can argue about his budgets, but like, he knows what he's doing at minimum. You think he's going to go into Dunfermline, he's going to go, right, none of this nonsense you've been trying. Back to basics. 6 games to save the season. Like I said with Hamilton, or whoever I said it about. 4 points. And I think you're probably safe. You really don't need to do an awful lot. And then they've gone and signed Victor Wanyama. Now that, to be fair, that's a stunt signing anyway. Really. But I thought the most... We mentioned, obviously, he hasn't played a game since July. He hasn't played a full 90 minutes in the league since the July before that. I thought the most damning thing, actually, was... so he's obviously not been getting a game at Montreal, as we've been saying. In the last window, Montreal brought in a replacement to play his position, and it was Victor Latoure from Ross County.
Willie Akio's brother.
Willie Akio's brother. He's better than Willie Akio, but not by very much. He's basically wasn't starting games for Ross County, and Montreal have been like, right, Victor Wanyama can't even get in a match day squad, but we're going to bring this guy in ahead of him. Like, he's clearly not operating at the level he once did, to say the very least. And I said this a couple of weeks ago when we played Dunfermline, and we had more reason to be talking about them. That was like, bringing in all these teenagers, it's naive and kind of bordering on disrespectful to the level of football that we're at. I think this is the same thing. I don't think you can just be like, oh, this guy used to be good, so he'll come in here and he'll stroll it. Like, it's professional full-time football. You're not... It's not like that Carling advert where they just got a load of retired footballers together and tried to get through the FA Cup. Like, it's... I think if I had to put money on it, having now seen Hamilton yesterday, I think they'll finish below Dunfermline. I think Neil Lennon's going to have enough about him that they'll get the points, and I can't see Accies doing it, because I can't see what's going to change. But what I will say, just on a final point on Neil Lennon coming in to be like, right, I'm going to do something very straightforward. Played Joe Chalmers at centre-half yesterday. That's insane.
That was going to be my retort to your Dunfermline are going to finish above Accies. Joe Chalmers centre-half. What?
Like,
what?
What? that it does totally, that theory of, right, he's been around, knows what he's doing, he's going to go back to basics, 4-4-2, you've all played it since you were kids, away you go. And he's taking Joe Chalmers and putting him in at centre-half, and then they're having to play you and Otto deeper to cover the defender is defending for him. Like, what are you doing? So, I mean, who knows what happened? That could be an absolute disaster, which would be incredibly good fun. But it just feels like, as I say, Dunfermline feel a little bit chaotic to me. And I think that might work in their favour once or twice. And it probably only really needs to work in that one game against Accies.
Yeah.
Whereas Accies, I don't know, they look beaten before they kicked the ball.
It's hard to see where they're going to get points from, to be honest.
Like,
I could see them losing the last 6 games or 5 games left.
The last time we went to New Douglas Park, we obviously said all this because then they came up against Dunfermline again. It's like, oh, Accies were ridiculously hapless, like such a bad team. And then they played Dunfermline after a few weeks later, might have been a month later or so, and they beat them 1-0. So they were 2-2 against Falkirk, very unlucky not to win that game, which, funnily enough, would have massively cut the gap between ourselves and them at that point. But credit to Barry Robson, the consistency. We're up to 42 points, and we are pretty much, I mean, nobody will say it, but we're home and host. Like, we're comfortably,
I'll say it.
There's no team that's below us, other than Morton, that's going to be looking to finish above us in terms of the rest of the season, you would think, because they're all just gubbins. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's been and gone now. There's no
Well, I think I've worked it out, and we're at the stage now where Airdrie can't catch us now, so we can't get automatically relegated. And this is just looking at the maths, because I don't, like you say, these teams below us are not catched. But I think if we beat Ayr on Saturday, that's it. Completely done. And I think if Dunfermline lose against Livy, then a point against Ayr is enough for it to be completely mathematically done. As it is, like you say, it would take something ridiculous now for us to have any chance of getting dragged back into that.
But let's
even Scott doesn't think we're going to get relegated now.
Let's get into the events of yesterday. I think we've probably had enough of a good general blather about the bottom of the table there. I think a lot of that's just kind of relief that we had a big conversation about who might get relegated and never had to use the words Wraith or Rovers at any point. So in terms of yesterday, I don't know where this ranks on your surprise-ometer. Barry Robson made 2 changes to his starting lineup, but he was just changing it back to how it was before. So, difficult one to judge. But it was back to the team that had played at New Douglas Park and beat Accies 3-0 the last time. So I think, difficult to be too critical in terms of winning formulas on that. Ewan Murray, Robbie, a little bit hard done by to be dropping out to allow Josh Mullen back in?
Yeah, I would say so. I think that you can understand why Barry Robson's made the changes, particularly after that last game and the result that we had, and just being able to change it up. But yeah, it's one for where Ewan Murray obviously probably could feel a little bit aggrieved that he's not made the starting lineup, considering how defensively solid that we've been, obviously, aside from the collapse in the Morton game. It's Mullen to wing back was an interesting one. Again, we sort of touched on it in the pre-match podcast. Accies don't really have too much coming down that left-hand side. Like maybe if they bring on, or if they're utilising McKinstry maybe. But even then, not really too much on that side. So it really allows Josh Mullen a bit of freedom, as we saw later on in the game, to have a bit of attack and impetus. It was just... I don't think anyone was particularly surprised when we saw the changes that were made, particularly the other one as well.
Yeah, so Finlay Pollock came back in the starting lineup for Lewis Vaughan. I think, all things being equal, if everybody's fit, I think that's a wild or a more wild change to make. But given that Louis Vaughan's still just kind of getting back to full fitness, I think it made perfect sense, and also think very much kind of justified by the opening sort of exchanges in the game. We think probably the high point, almost maybe arguably, of kind of Barry Robson and his style of football has been that last game at New Douglas Park, and it really continued in the same vein. The couple of chances that open up the highlights package, it's the Rovers turning over the ball, just being very in the faces of the Accies players, winning it back, knocking it through. And we know that Pollock's very, very good at that. In terms of the kind of opening period, the goal itself doesn't come until the 43rd minute, Allan. So just taking the 42 minutes before that as a whole, were you content with what you were seeing? Were you getting a little bit itchy as we got towards halftime?
No, it kind of always felt like it was coming. We were in control, really. They had a couple of snapshots that never really troubled Josh Ray. But we were creating plenty of chances. We were taking lots of shots actually, which was quite surprising. We were kind of, I don't know if maybe Lewis Vaughan being kind of back on the on the scene for the team now kind of gets people thinking, well, he's well known for being a guy who likes to take a shot, so maybe to keep my place, I'm going to have to do it. But there was plenty of that coming, and also Easton was on one from quite an early stage. You can tell with him very, very quickly whether he's up, not up for the game, because I'm sure he's always up for the game, but sometimes it just doesn't work for him. And yesterday felt like one of those days where you could tell, you just felt he was going to get on the score sheet. I mean, he even had a wee practice, like the goal he scored, he got a practice at it about, well, it was a minute or so before on the highlights. It wasn't that long before it. He tried it from both sides. You just felt like it was coming, and you didn't ever feel like there was anything going to go in at the other end. So it was just a matter of time, I felt.
That the one that he has before it is so similar that when it didn't go in on the highlights, I was genuinely surprised. I just assumed I was watching the goal. I was like, oh, hang on a second, I'd forgotten about this one. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I was really chuffed just to see that first half. As you said, the shots. You know, the until the goal, none of them were like whatever the positive version of heart in your mouth would be. Well, there was none of them where you were like, oh, I thought that was in. But like, it was good just to see them getting shots away.
Yeah.
Scott, how much of, as Allan says, Dylan Easton, I thought was very good in that first half. He was very involved, and he's getting these shots away. How much of that would you chalk up to the fact that, as we've said, Accies don't have an awful lot about it? Do you think that's just freedom that comes from not having to be worrying about going the other way, given he's playing centrally?
Yeah, I think also, like, when you've got players like Scott Brown and Ross Matthews playing behind him, he'll know that he's got two guys that both are very fit, very mobile, and can get about the park, can cover for pretty much any player, like in terms of attacking sense-wise as well. So I think that's what gives him more freedom on top of that, and the fact that the likes of Pollock and Gullen are doing the sort of hard yards in terms of all the high pressing. Now, to be fair to Easton, he's also been chipping in with quite a lot of pressing as well, but what he seems to be doing well under Robson is that he's getting himself close or in the vicinity of Gullen or Pollock. Whoever is pressing, he's kind of following, like just 10 yards back, just in case the defender is either panicked and then coughs up the ball, and then Gullen or Pollock can then just lay it off to Easton and then just do what he does and try and beat a player or go and create a chance or score or whatever. But I thought the first half kind of epitomised that. I mean, every time that we did attack, what we did do well was we realised, obviously we've not mentioned it, but the conditions yesterday, especially the first half, were wild. Like, it was just blowing a gale, raining sideways. Like, it did not look like a good day to play football, put it that way. But I think what we used to our advantage was we played the conditions really well, and we were putting balls sort of either in behind them or at least down the channels where it's forcing them to go back. And then anytime they cleared it, it was either getting caught up in the wind or it was deep enough in their end where we kept them camped in, and it allowed Pollock and Gullen to chase it down, Easton or Brown or Matthews to kind of follow them in. But no, I do think that Easton, even under Robson, has done his fair share of pressing, like I say. But I think the goal was coming, and the good thing was, and it was something that I think we all noticed really quickly, was like, clearly we were trying to play the conditions very early, because the amount of shots we had in that opening 20, yes, none of them really were on target, but at the same time, we had about 6 shots, whereas half the time we've not had 6 shots in a game. Like, it's been a frustrating season that side, but it was good to see yesterday, and the fact I think we knew that, look, if we get at least a goal, it's fair to say we'll probably get something out the game. Like, at most, I think Hamilton might have got a goal at some point. Just the fact that they do have the threat of like a Shaw or a Todorov coming off the bench or whatever, but I don't think they really, until we went 3-0 up, they never looked like scoring at all.
Yeah, that's it. We'll talk about that little spell, because I'm interested to hear your thoughts on it. But first half especially, it did. And I don't say this very often, it felt like a goal was coming. At the beginning of the game, I was a little bit worried about the weather. It felt like one of those games where you think we really need to be kind of 2 or 3 up at half time here. But I think the wind shifted a little bit and it was moving across the pitch as opposed to kind of coming towards us into that away stand. But it felt like the Rovers were controlling the game on their own merits as opposed to just we've got the wind and that's what's making the difference.
We actually looked more dangerous when we had the ball on the deck and passed it around them anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
We played some really nice football. I think Ross Matthews kind of mentioned that in his interview, didn't he? That he felt we did to get the ball down and play football a little bit, and I thought we looked like we could get through them every time.
Jim Clark actually mentioned that quite a fair bit in the first half on Rafe TV commentary as well, which was worthwhile mentioning, was the fact that how good we were keeping the ball on the ground. I mean, the surface was slick because it had been raining. Mm-hmm. I think it was also good that it was another advert to why on a day like yesterday, I mean, Christ, I've not even bothered watching any highlights at Capello because I can't imagine how attritional that must have been, that 1-0 game, because albeit I've heard that Morton were meant to be the better side, like I can't imagine that was a bonny game to go and watch. Like on that sort of heavy pitch, the conditions, whereas we were on a pitch that allows you to play football, especially when it's slick. So, like, I don't think you could have ever said anything about the pitch yesterday. But, yeah, I agree. I thought we did really well to keep the ball on the ground a lot of the time. And then we did go maybe long every now and again just to kind of test them over the top. But at the same time, you've got the guys that are going to chase it down. So I think it's fine to mix it up now and again as well.
Yeah, definitely. Robbie, the goal does come 2 minutes before half-time. Talk to me about the defending for this goal, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's the real sort of source of Hamilton's woes, isn't it? When you come down and you break it down bit by bit. They're Dylan McGowan, and obviously they've got Sean McGinty in there as well, and it's just not a centre-back pairing. It's just bizarre. It's just one of those ones where with Dylan Easton does this thing, we spoke about it quite a lot last season, where like what he'll do is he'll let the ball just roll and he'll sort of almost shuffle next to it, and it's like watching him do that, but he does that halfway across the box and nobody thinks to go out and actually like put an attack at or stop him. I don't know if they were afraid in terms of like giving away a potential free kick or a danger area or anything like that, much in the way that, again, we spoke about Nathan Shaw's goal on Tuesday, kind of in a similar vein, in that he just kind of sort of keeps going, and then all of a sudden he takes a shot. But I know that it got touched on by Allan earlier on. It was a carbon copy of what had happened, like just that slight bit before. So if you're seeing that, you must be infuriated as a fan. But yeah, we'll take it. Great opener, great finish from Easton, all things considered. I know that Dean Linus maybe could probably feel a bit aggrieved. He gets a hand to it and sort of doesn't sort of have the power to keep it away or be able to get rid of it. But yeah, Easton's gone in with intent there to sort of get that ball fired off. And I know I can understand why people are maybe being like shouting shoot, but then eventually when it does go, it's the right decision.
I think the other thing with this is it really highlights how well the Rovers shape helped them in the game, and conversely how Accies were set up just in the wrong way. Like when that move is developing, Jackson Longridge is at left back and he's trying to face up Jordan Doherty, who's our centre half, and Mullen's wide and Easton's there as well, and so there's a little pass back and forth between Mullen and Doherty, and all Longridge is doing is just running himself ragged, trying to cover the both of them. I don't know who nominally is supposed to be on that side. Is it Stephen Bradley, possibly? Somebody like that. An Accies player. Needs to be over there helping him out. And the way that goal ends, when it's just Easton, I think he goes by 4 defenders without any of them actually sort of really being involved. He just screens by them. Really poor.
I actually think that somebody that needs to get a lot of credit for this goal as well is Jamie Gullan. I don't know if you noticed in the highlights that it's actually him that's holding off Sean McGinty the whole time that Easton's just sort of gliding along the edge of the box. Gullan's got him pinned. McGinty can't go anywhere. And it's almost like Gullan's went, right, I'm pinning the sort of most aggressive defender, so you need to come in now to take your shot. But I think it's also something that Gullan's brought this time round that he wouldn't have done when he was at us the 4 other times that he's been with us. Like, he's completely adapted his game, and we've said it loads of times since he's came in. I've put my hand up a few times. I definitely was one of the ones that was a bit sceptical on him coming back, purely just the fact that we'd seen him so many times. Yes, he had went to another league in Ireland and tested himself, but I still didn't envisage the sort of player that we've got this time round. I did not think that he was going to be anywhere near as physical. I didn't think he was going to be bodying defenders or protecting the ball anywhere near as good. But I think that goal, the first goal there on yesterday, I think just kind of epitomised the sort of player that, the sort of penalty box striker he's turned into. Whereas before, I know that you, Duncan, were never a fan of him running in wide, wide positions when he's meant to be the number 9 at certain times. But he's completely adapted his game, and I think, yeah, as I say, that goal, whilst it's a well-taken goal by Easton, I think that Gullen's definitely got to take some credit in terms of protecting Easton for getting any defender coming to him.
I suspect the defenders are all in two minds as well, knowing that if they dive in and miss the ball, chances are Easton's going to go over and win a penalty. Because, he's scored a lot of penalties this season and he's won quite a lot of the penalties that he's scored. So that must kind of play into it, because he was just on the edge of the box. So it's almost that half-hearted, right, I don't want to tackle him, but we need to stop him, they'll try and block it, and they just showed him along. It was very nice to watch.
I'm just watching back the clip for the goal actually now. I don't know if anyone's clicked in terms of how it starts, but it's a ball out from Josh Ray. You know who's picking it up in midfield and sort of shepherding the ball through? It's Fordyce. Fordyce is the one who sort of basically shows it across his body. And then
I do remember him being in midfield at one point.
Basically, the move builds up from there, because then it goes out to Scott Brown. And the Accies players all shift onto the back foot. They're all like, oh no, here we go. They're heading backwards. And you can see the Rovers players are just gradually building up to go forward. Like, more and more of them are arriving, which is why it gives us overload. So it's a really... I think when you actually look at back, it looks like a really sort of like simple goal of Dylan Easton cuts in, shoots and scores, but there's actually so many small pieces to it that makes it a really enjoyable goal to watch back.
Yeah, definitely. And while we're calling out the unsung heroes of that goal, I do think John Doherty should get credit, having just, again, watched that back to see what you were saying there. It's the same thing, that Accies are so ragged that there is a lot of space, and he's not in two minds about it. He's not thinking like, I'm supposed to be a centre half today. He's straight down there, and I say that's what causes the initial bother for Longridge in the beginning. So definitely, it's a very good goal. It's a very, it's the type of goal that a good team scores, because there's a lot of moving parts, and there's guys, as you say, who are effectively out of position at times in that goal, but they're all doing very, very well. So yeah, very. I think all 3 goals actually very satisfying for kind of different reasons. But that takes us up to half time. So let's us also have a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll do second half. Blair.
Yes, mate.
You're a man.
Yes.
And you have thoughts and feelings and emotions.
Yes.
Are you good at talking about all that stuff?
Well, I try my best, but I don't know. Probably not as much as I should.
I'm the same. I feel better after getting stuff like that off my chest, but I don't do it anywhere near often enough. Have you heard about Andy's Man Club?
They're brilliant. They create a safe space for men to sit down and talk about the important stuff. And they do it right across the country as well.
Yeah, exactly. They've got more than 200 meetings across the UK, and it's every Monday night at 7 o'clock, including one at Starks Park.
And if anyone wants more information on it, they can go to andysmanclub.co.uk or search for Andy's Man Club on Facebook. It's okay to talk, and now we're going to get back to talking about the Rovers.
So the start of the second half, to me anyway, felt like it was really just sort of more of the same. Aki's just not really able to get much of a foothold. The Rovers kind of easing their way into the half, I think, especially given the weather, maybe just not sort of taking any chances, but Actually, no, Alan, I was going to ask you exactly what I asked you about the first half. I'll ask someone else. Robbie, did you get the feeling that it was just a matter of time before the second goal came along?
Yeah, I felt that we started the half really sort of strongly, just building upon the way that we'd ended that first half. I feel like the real collapse did come after, of course, the second goal, when it became real Keystone Cops, which I don't actually know what that reference refers to. Is it like, I don't know, is it some sort of slapstick comedy? It was before my time. So anyway, but yeah, generally start the second half in a strong manner. You could see that we were getting great success and belief out of the press that we were using, and just generally building on all the good work that had been done.
Yeah, don't worry about it being before your time, mate. It was a series of films released between 1912 and 1917, so before everybody's time, really. But yeah, basically slapstick silent films. Let's just jump straight to that second goal, because that's the thing I want to talk about the most, to be perfectly honest with you. If we had conceded this goal, we could have been into like 4 hour Joe Rogan length podcast.
Talking about crocodiles and DMT and Callum Fordyce, aye?
Yeah, because I mean, Alan, you can go first. What's going on there?
I mean, I'll go with the first thing, and that's give Finlay Pollock a bit of credit for winning the free kick. It was that he knew he wasn't really going anywhere. He collected the ball and just stopped and took the challenge into the back of him, went down for the free kick. It's one of those really frustrating ones to give away, but well won. Nice delivery by Gullen. Interesting to see him kind of. I don't know if he's floated it over because he saw that there was just nothing there for Accies or not, but the defending on the cross is just ridiculous. Callum Fordyce had time to kind of tie his shoes and make a cup of tea and everything before getting on the head. There was no one anywhere near him. Like, nobody even looking to get near him. It wasn't like he made this mad run from nowhere. He was just completely unmarked. It was, I mean, I dread if we concede a goal like that and Leslie's on this podcast, phone your work, you're not going in tomorrow. It was just ludicrous.
At least Lewis McCann was in the box.
It's Dylan McGowan again is the main culprit here. And I haven't a clue what he thinks he's doing. I don't know what he thinks the positive outcome is going to be, because he's so square before the ball comes in. He never once looks at the ball, has no idea where the ball is at any point. And all he can possibly be thinking about doing is just blocking the run. But he's so square. It's like a rugby line-out. Like he's got his opposite man, and he's like, right, I'm just gonna stand directly in front of him. And Callum Fordyce just moves slightly to the side, and that just flummoxes him completely. That's his whole plan out the window. It's like playing chess against a bishop. He's like, I didn't realise you can move diagonally. What's and then he just lets him go, because he doesn't even then he just turns around and he's like, what? I mean, I think, sorry, I should have said, all credits, a really good cross. It's also a really good header. I think that's one of these ones that's deceptively, because he's got all the space. If he'd missed it, we'd have slaughtered him for it. But he probably doesn't realise he's got that much space, because he shouldn't have. Scott, what did you think about that goal?
I think it was just like anybody, just an absolute calamity at the back for them. I mean, it's. I don't know if it's just. I know it seems as simple as Fordyce managing to just somehow outsmart Dylan McGowan, even though it wasn't. He didn't have to outsmart him that much to do so. But I also wondered, again, just trying to figure out ways of why or how Hamilton could have made it just even that little bit better to avoid it happening. I don't understand why there's two guys in the wall there. I'm nitpicking here just to try and I'm like, why is there two guys in the wall there? It's at the angle it's at, and it's a right footer. I'm sorry, but Jamie Gullen ain't scoring for there. It's just not going to happen. So I don't surely you just stick one guy there, then you've got another guy in the box to either mark the sort of space that they seem to do in zonal marking, or to go and pick up a man. But you could even put a second man beside McGowan that's going to then pick up a Fordyce or a Hanlon who maybe makes a right good run into that space. Because, surely they know that we're going to be aiming most likely for Hanlon, but Fordyce is there as well at a decent height. But they just clearly didn't think about that at all. And, yeah, it was almost, as you say, Fordyce probably didn't realise how much time he had, but, if he misses that, it's, a shocker if he misses that. Because it's all he needs to do is just head at the other side of the goal, and it's in, because Linus has came, obviously, darting across, just in case it goes into the far side of the goal, and he's done the right thing, heading it back across. But, he had all the time in the world to just nod it down. He could have even nodded it down to his feet, and then just tapped it in. He had that much time to do it, but... Aye. And yeah, as we've already said, we've conceded far too many goals to set pieces, and some of them have been pretty shocking. I'm not sure any of them have been as bad as that, though.
As you say, it's nitpicking, but the other one is Regan Tumley. And I have to say, I thought Regan Tumley was pretty good as far as Hamilton players were concerned yesterday. I still think he's an excellent right back for this level, but he's picking up Scott Brown, and Scott Brown runs off him, but Scott Brown is running away effectively. He starts quite close to the goal, and he's going out basically to be at the penalty spot, and he gets the jump on Tumley, so Tumley has to go the other way. And what it means is that as the ball has been clipped in, Regan Tumley runs under the flight of the ball past Callum Fordyce and Dylan McGowan to then just run 10 yards away from where it's going. If he just stops that run halfway through, he's at least in the road. Again, real lack of just awareness or planning or whatever that is. Robbie, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I watched it back there, and I think you're absolutely right to call out Tumulty's just decision making there. I get that he's never going to be favourite in the air against Callum Fordyce, but it just seems a strange one to watch back in hindsight. What is great to see, though, is that our centre backs are getting into these positions now and scoring goals. I feel like we've missed that a lot this season. Been a real point of sort of contention. Well, I don't know if you go as far as a point of contention, because we've had other players sort of step up, but something that you would expect from a team with the likes of Paul Hanlon and Callum Fordyce when they're playing. I get that, again, Fordyce hasn't really potentially been used, but just being able to get these players up the pitch and have them as a sort of aerial presence, physical, being able to sort of just muscle players out the way, and we're seeing the benefits of that now, so we can use that towards the end of the season. All for it.
Definitely. I would have it as a point of contention. I found it contentious. Up until relatively recently, within the last couple of months, I think the only goal we had in the league from a defender was that Lewis Stevenson volley. So it's as you say, really good to see that, because we should have that as a weapon in our arsenal. And very good to see, and hopefully Callum Fordyce, obviously, he's had a torrid time this season with one thing and another. So really good to see him get that goal, and again, had a very, very good game just from start to finish, really. We think the third goal follows kind of 10 minutes after that. I think this might be the best example we've had so far of what in my notes I've referred to as Barry ball, and which I'm already regretting. I take that back. But I think it's the best example of what Barry Robson wants to do and what Barry Robson sets out to do. Because it starts with Accies have got the ball in their back line, and they're trying to just move forward effectively. And as soon as the ball goes out to the left back, Josh Mullen is right on him forces the kind of rushed pass, and Scott Brown is already on the receiver for that pass. The ball then gets, so if Rovers then win the ball, all of the front three are involved. Pollock and Easton and Vaughan's obviously on at that point. It's a really nice pass across. It's well weighted from Dylan Easton. Lewis Vaughan actually, I think, might be slightly disappointed with his first touch and doesn't quite get what he wants out of it. But our old pal Dylan McGowan just kind of lets him go by him anyway. He has forced him wide, if you want to try and give Dylan McGowan some credit. But to give Lewis Vaughan a lot more credit, I think where some players would just lash at that and just try and get the shot away anyway, he's got that presence of mind to just keep it alive. Whether he consciously knows exactly where he's putting that ball or not, I actually don't think it even really matters. He knows he's got teammates around him. So he clips that ball across and makes its way to Josh Mullen. And it's a really good finish. Does exactly what he needs to do with it. Just gets his head down, gets over the ball, and puts it back where it came from. And Dean Lennis has got no chance. Allan, would you agree with that characterisation? That's what Barry Robson's looking for.
Absolutely, it's definitely what he's looking for. It's the kind of the justification for almost everything he said in terms of the way he wants to play the games and things like that. It's his transitions, as he likes to say. I notice he's even got Ross Matthews saying that as well. They're all talking about transitions, and to just go from pressing to attacking as quickly as that, it was just really nice to see. And I mean, again, Josh Mullen shouldn't be getting that away. I think at the point that he collects the ball with Vaughan, including Linus, there's 7 Accies players in the box and there's only 3 Rovers players. Dylan Easton just comes in at the end. We shouldn't be scoring from there, but they just did nothing. I mean, full credit to all our guys for doing their parts well, but Accies didn't really do much to try and stop them. But again, as I say, it just comes down to the way we played the game. We weren't resting on our laurels at 2-0 up. We were still getting in their faces and kind of closing them down and winning the ball back. And I mean, Scott Brown's been taken off a few times recently, and I don't think it's anything to do with injury. I think it's just because he's completely running himself into the ground. The man does not stop. It's great to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Just empties the tank.
Yeah. Which is, what, and it's when you've got someone like Sean Byrne who can come off the bench to replace you can do that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, as you say there, like the Accies players are rushing back, but even then they still don't manage to pick up Finlay Pollock. Like Mullen shoots and he's every right to, and he scores a goal.
Yeah.
And perfectly, fair play to him for that. But he could have also cut it back. And I think 99% we get the goal anyway. It's real.
Yeah.
I nearly said Keystone Cops again. I don't have a second reference point for that. I don't know what else you would say for that, but it's the same thing again. Robbie, what did you think about that one? It's that 90% brilliant attacking play, 10% poor defending, or do you want to draw that line somewhere else?
Maybe about 80-20, I would say. I feel like when you look at the way that we got the ball sort of going forward, and just when it's coming to the point where it's like just outside the edge of the box, I can't remember who it was that we had the sort of the options to go between. Easton, I think it's playing it through to Pollock, but he can play it to Vaughan, and he just feeds it out wide to Lewis Vaughan. If he plays it in Finlay Pollock, he's through on goal. But it's just the fact we've got the options there. How often this season have we been watching football where it's sort of maybe felt a bit pedestrian, and it's been the ball's been going from side to side and then it needs to go backwards to go forward, and the fans get frustrated with that. It looked like we were just completely chest out, heads up, just completely willing to take them on, being able to go and attack them, which is, it's always nice to see. And it absolutely killed them, because between the second and third goal, it just felt like inevitable that we were going to get at least one more, if not it was going to continue on. Just Accies looked completely lost and didn't want to be out on the pitch. So yeah, I think it was a real assured sort of display, particularly in the second half up to that point. And then it kind of, foot maybe got taken off the gas a wee bit. It was a bit of a strange one. It was like Accies, it was almost like they were playing to get an equaliser, but they were 3-0 down, so it didn't really matter.
It's really, really interesting. As I say, I wanted to talk about this because I agree with you entirely. Like when it went to 3-0, I was like, cool, this game's done. Because they've offered nothing up till now. They look totally beaten. Like there's no real chance that they're going to do anything here because they've done nothing up till now. And then it was a bit panic. Not that it was never panicky, but like they suddenly started having chances, and Josh had to make some really decent saves. Scott, have you got a theory for what changed or why that happened?
No, I think obviously we probably knew by, I would say the second goal, but definitely the third goal, that the game kind of was done. Like I don't think I know we've been the master of our own downfall when it comes to collapsing at certain times with multiple goal leads, but even still, we showed in the away game at Hamilton early in the season that like once you're 2-3-0 up, they look completely lost, void of ideas. I know they did. Like Josh Ray, to be fair, earned his wage come the last 15 minutes. I mean, he made 3 really good saves, and I know people will look at yet again he made a bit of a handling error, which almost led to what would have been an equaliser actually at the time.
Yeah.
But obviously Scott Brown did really well to recover and clear it off the line. And actually something that I did notice at the time was that we were down to 10 men at that point, because that's when Barry Robson got booked for going off his nut when Fordyce wasn't getting back on the park.
Yeah.
And so I think fair play to Bruni to be in the position where probably Fordyce is, to be covering there whilst we are down a man. But I thought that other than just the 3 kind of chances they did get, I didn't think really that we were in any danger of really losing the game or allowing them to come back into it. But I do think that it just showed that Josh Ray is still a very good goalie at this level. I mean, yes, and as I say, in the last 2 games he's had 2 handling errors, which, what I will say is, if that was Kev, a lot of folk would have been right on top of him for them errors at the time, and quite rightly, because I mean, the 2 that he has made errors on, it shouldn't really be. Like, it was 2 very simple, like, instances of just collecting the ball, but at the same time, he's kept another clean sheet. Was it 4 in the last 5? Something like that. So it's the one thing that I said, I think it was in the post-match midweek, was that the one thing I've been really impressed with Josh Ray is his communication with the defence. You can actually hear really clearly. I think it's a free kick when we're 3-0 down near the end of the highlights. The ball swung in, but it's because it's so kind of quiet because the game's done by this point. You can hear like all the players kind of giving each other calls and whatever. And you can hear Josh Ray shouting at somebody to either pick up a man or to be like going for the ball. And it's just so much. I can imagine as a defender, it's so much. It puts you at ease knowing that you've got somebody that's confident behind you and you've got full confidence in him. Like as I say, you didn't need him to be talking somebody through a game. I mean, he's got somebody like Paul Hanlon in front of him who's played 500 games in the top flight and been capped at international level. So I think he knows what he's doing. But it's just the fact, it's just little commands here and there where it's like, oh, man on, or give me the ball, I've got time, I'll ping it out to wherever, or I'll come and collect it to take pressure off. Just little things like that. And at the end of the day, I think we've just looked a lot better defensively under Barry Robson and since Josh Ray's came in. And I'll still put it out there, I still think that Kevin Dabrowski's potentially a better shot stopper than Josh Ray is. But I don't think he's anywhere near when it comes to commanding his box and coming to collect crosses and, well, with the ball at his feet as well. All these things are the things that clearly Barry Robson didn't like about Kevin Dabrowski and went, we need to change this now. And he did that very quickly and got Josh Ray in. And it's actually been clear to see why Robson went and done that.
Yeah, I think certainly the ball at his feet categorically. I think there's also an element of this sort of decisiveness as well. There was a moment it must have been right at the start of the second half, where there was a long ball was put over the top, sort of into the channel, but it was coming into the box, and there was an Accies player chasing it down, and Josh Ray didn't come for it, but he very quickly and very clearly didn't come for it. So I think it might have actually been George Doherty, although it wasn't on his side, who was coming across, but he knew from very, very early on, I will have to deal with this. There was none of that kind of second guessing of, oh, is he coming, is he not? Oh, yeah, and then you end up in a bit of a bother. Now, I think actually, in hindsight, he had the time. He could have come across, he could have gotten it, he would have been there first before anybody else. But he made a decision really early, and he stuck to it. And I think sometimes that's what you need, because you can't be perfect all the time. You're not going to get every decision right. But if you can at least be very clear, as you say, communicate what you're doing, you're giving other people half a chance to kind of deal with it for you. Allan, were you concerned at any point in that late flurry? Were you thinking that, like, oh, if one of these goes in, could be in bother?
Not really. No. Even the saves, like, they were good saves, but they're saves that you expect a goalie at this level to make. There was nothing spectacular. You know, look, just watching them back there, the third of them, guy gets a free header, slightly annoying to see that, but he doesn't do anything with it. It's straight at, he's getting a free header on the penalty spot. You can have free headers there if you want, I suppose. If you're going to get a free header away, give it away there, not on the edge of the 6-yard box where it's a lot more dangerous. But you'd still prefer to see someone on him. And I have no doubt that, as much as Barry Robson will be very happy with the 3-0 win, he'll probably mention that in their kind of post-match meeting, say, look, why is he getting a free header there? If they got in a goal there, maybe they come back at it. So it wasn't the perfect performance, but they just, they never felt like they had it in them to come back at us. Don't get me wrong, if they'd scored one of them, we've all been watching Rovers long enough that we would have been like, oh, here we go again. So we're only a few days away from a situation like that. So we would have been a wee bit nervy if one of them had gone in, but it just didn't ever feel like one of those games.
Yeah.
See, one of those headers, actually, sorry, just quickly, one of the headers that Ray saves, I thought, and I'm sure Jim Clark actually said the same on Rave TV, I swear that Paul Hanlon had stuck that in the net when he just put it wide of the post. Just for our angle, it just looked like he passed it into the net. I was like, unless it's just hit him, I was like, what's he doing?
Is that when he got down low to save it and kind of thinking it back out? Yeah.
Because I thought the same thing. Like, from the angle that I was at, I was looking like almost through the goal to see it, and I did think the same thing. It's like, whoa. But I mean, he seemed very confident about it. He didn't seem to be any whoa, that's a relief. Paul Hanlon was just like, I knew I was done. Everybody else can calm down. But yeah, I know what you mean, Allan. It feels like almost like a slightly unfair question. So I was like, we should have a neutral observer. Like, if Hamilton had scored there, would you have had any concerns about the outcome of the game? But like, no, of course not. They've done nothing all afternoon. Just because they get one with 5 minutes to go, that's not going to change anything. Because I think Rovers fans generally, we've been hurt too many times.
A couple of them by Hamilton.
Yeah, exactly. Right, let's get into the man of the match. I think this is going to be quite intriguing because I think there's various angles that you could come at this from. Robbie, start with you, please, mate. Who's your contenders? Who's taking the crown?
I mean, for a contender, I would say Callum Fordyce. I know that Accies didn't really have anything going forward right up until after the third goal, but he did everything that was needed. The same with the rest of the defensive unit, and they were all going forward. Like I say,
best game for Rovers, I would say.
Yeah, first goal, he's still getting involvement there, and then in the second goal, he heads it home. So you can't say fairer than that. Other than that, I would say if I wasn't going for him, I would probably go for to go a bit different. I would go Josh Mullen. I felt like he was back to his old self. It was good to see him getting his first goal of the season. A power of work down the wings, right place, right time, especially when you've been sort of running all afternoon, tracking defenders or tracking attackers, even making sure that you're doing your job, the basics. So technically he's a fullback, so he gets the clean sheet and he gets a goal as well. So another goal-scoring defender.
I think it's really interesting with Josh Mullen yesterday because, if I'm completely honest, at half-time, I was a bit like, what's happening here? Like, purely because Hamilton were giving him so much space, and he almost just seemed a little bit reluctant to use it.
Yeah.
And like, we know how good he is crossing from deep, so it's not like he's like shirking responsibilities or anything like that, even slightly. And obviously last time we were at Hamilton, he was man of the match, I think unanimously, when we did the podcast, because he was outstanding that day. But just at times it was like, they're giving you so much space and so much time. Like, you can afford to come 10, 20, 30 yards further forward. And I think that maybe it was just because it was right in front of me that I was so aware of it or so kind of focused on it for that first half. But it wasn't that he was doing anything wrong. It was like, could you have actually been
more?
Aye, could you have been 10 yards further forward and then done what you did? And it might have been even better. But as you say, plays his part in the first goal, gets the third as well. And that, I mean, if Josh Mullen's ever going to make a career as a wing-back, it's going to be playing against Hamilton Accies, I think, because they're really doing him some favours. But he needs to be there to take advantage of it, and he absolutely did yesterday.
I think he does his best work in that position with Jordan Doherty on the right of a back three inside him as well, because you've got a guy there who can also play that position, who comes out and covers for him, and you know Doherty's been in that position in both of those games at Hamilton, so it definitely plays a part of it. And Doherty himself was also brilliant yesterday, I thought, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. Who would be the top of your list, Allan?
Probably Ross Matthews. I thought he was absolutely, once again, bizarrely penalised for a perfect tackle. Thankfully, not booked for it this time. I mean, that's a couple, 2 or 3 times now in the last few games he's done. I kind of get that, there's maybe a level of aggression, but you're still allowed to be aggressive as long as you're not overly aggressive and as long as you're not reckless or out of control. And I don't think the one he got penalised for, he was completely in control of it. There was no danger of him hurting the player at all. He just, and you could say, oh, well, he runs into it. Well, if he doesn't run, he doesn't get there. So, like, what's he supposed to do? Like, you know what I mean? It was a perfect tackle, and I just thought he genuinely covered every blade of grass yesterday. He was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. That the referee over the piece was absolutely fine, right? That was one thing. The other thing that annoyed me was Hanlon's booking, purely because it was so clearly accidental.
Yeah.
Like, him and Ollie Shaw were running at the same time, and Hanlon tripped Shaw, but it was a complete accident. It's a foul, it's a free kick, but there's no reason to book him. He doesn't know anything about it. He's got no control over it. What are you booking him for?
And the fans were raging, trying to say it was a denial of a clear goal scoring opportunity.
Have you been watching Ollie Shaw?
He was running the lead anyway. But
we know that Hamilton fans are just permanently raging anyway. And just to come to that, the one thing that I caught that was quite funny was the Wanyama of it all, the spaghetti incident, as we shall call it, where he basically, as you hear, like, with these sorts of things, the ripple effect through the stand that you mentioned on Twitter, Duncan, like, just a Hamilton fan, the one bit of laughter they had yesterday afternoon was just laughing at Wanyama getting sent off and just disbelief.
It's a proper, like, unifying event. You just kind of get away for that. Like, that's what we all
Scottish
wanted
football,
to see, I think.
It's just Scottish football at its best.
It's, you know what it is? It's better than I could have believed. Like, I think if you'd asked me, I would have said, well, I hope he's just terrible. Like, that'll be funny. It's much funnier when he gets himself sent off and is terrible and is out of shape. Right, let's not get back into that again. We'll lose another half an hour. Scott, man of the match for you, please, mate.
Yeah, as you say, it's a difficult one just because I think everybody put in such a good shift yesterday. I think if I was to narrow it down to a couple or three guys, it'd probably be Josh Mullen and Doherty. I thought on that right hand side were really good all game. I think I was chatting to oh god, his name escapes me. I was chatting to somebody on Twitter today about Josh Mullen actually, and about the first half yesterday. I was also bemused at just how much space he was given, but I was also equally frustrated, like Jamie Gullen was, with how wasteful he was with his cross every time he got it. Because you know that he's going to cross fairly early because he's got such a good, usually, whip on it and can get it usually on the number most times. But the amount of times that it was actually far too close to the goalie or well over, and you go, this isn't sort of the usual for Josh. That's one thing that you would normally say is like really good at, is his crosses into the box.
100%. Yeah.
But then second half, he definitely improved. And one thing you can say about Josh Millen is he'll always give you plenty of effort and endeavour, and he'll never give up. I mean, I think we laughed at the start of last season when we started getting all these running stats that Josh Mullen a lot of the time was near the top, and we were like, how's this? Like, it doesn't look like he's doing a lot of running, but like now that he's playing wing back, you're actually seeing it maybe a bit more. But so I think the goal was just sort of the cherry on the top for his performance yesterday.
I think the wind was probably a factor with those crosses, to be fair, because he's trying to whip them. You're trying to get the ball to kind of come back against the wind, and the wind was just so strong that it would have been taken all the way off them probably.
Every chance that maybe the wind was also playing.
Why keep trying it? Do something different. Run, like you say, when you've got all that space, just run into the space and cut it back. But easy for me to say, sitting in the back of the stand with a pie and a coffee in my hands, like, you know what I mean? Well, easier for me.
Yeah, and just the final one, the third one, I thought Dylan Easton probably could have been in with a shout. Just again, first half especially, he was everywhere, getting on the ball, taking shots. I mean, I think he had about 5 shots in that first half himself, and then the goal obviously topped it off as well. But you probably could give a mention at the front too, again, just for the pure effort that they put in. I mean, every time when they do eventually get taken off, or even at the end of the 90 minutes, if they play 90 minutes, that both Pollock and Gullen just look done every time, just because of the effort they're having to put in. And I think it was good that Robson took Gullen off when he did, because he's just played 90 minutes on Tuesday. The game was pretty much done by then. It was 2-0, just take him off. Like, there was no need to be keeping playing him. When I know we've got a whole week at least to prepare for air, but like, just the game's done, just start making these changes. And for the first time, I think everybody thought the changes were the right changes and also at the right time. So
yeah,
long may that continue as well.
Yeah, definitely, I would agree with that. It's also notable yesterday that we had not only a full bench, but someone in the stand who was available as well. George Gatow didn't make the squad purely because we had 21 fit players, which certainly hasn't happened very often this season. I'm glad you mentioned Finlay Pollock there, Scott, because actually I nearly forgot to mention him, and we've barely talked about him. I thought he was really good yesterday. Just doing all the stuff that you need him to do when he's in that position. Again, like a couple of other guys, easy to forget that's not really where he plays, or hasn't been. A
bit like
excellent. He's off season. Say that again. Sorry.
Scott Brown last season is very similar.
Absolutely. At a certain point, you start taking it for granted. It's the same with Josh Mullen. Actually, on that basis, I think Josh Mullen probably was man of the match, and I wouldn't have said that at halftime by any means at all. But actually, I mean, the third goal, as I say, really epitomises it. It's his pressing, and I'm not going to get into this again, but he's pressing like you'd want a wing back to, where I think he might actually be in their half. If not, he's only just inside our half, and he's right on the guy. And then as soon as he sees that Brown's winning the ball, he's going. And at that point, Robbie, I think it was you who said that when Easton's got the ball, he chooses to go to Vaughan on the left-hand side. He could also go to Pollock through the middle. Mullen's not an option for the pass, because man, but Mullen is as far advanced as Pollock is.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you want. Like, that's where a natural wing-back would be, where it's like, we've won the ball, right, now I'm in attack mode and I'm going. And yeah, I thought it was excellent. As I say, that you could have picked pretty much anybody.
I don't think anyone had a bad game. I feel like Ian Lattle's going to be sitting listening to this shouting, "What? Nobody's mentioned Hanlon," but I think it's just because Hanlon had a really good game yesterday, but we're just so used to it now. It's like that's his standard.
Yeah.
It was nothing exceptional from him because he's just been that good.
I think Lewis Stevenson as well. Lewis Stevenson is actually, we never mentioned him. I don't think we've said I literally don't think we've said his name once.
No, we haven't.
And that,
well, not by that game. You mentioned his goal for earlier in the season. That's the reason I mentioned him.
True.
There are players where that would be like as damning a thing as you could imagine. You'd get through now and be like, we've not even mentioned him, not even said his name. Lewis Stevenson's the complete opposite. It's like he's so effective. Actually, it's like there's just nothing really needs to be mentioned. He's there, he's doing his job. It's never a question. It's not a talking point. There's nothing to say about it because he's just there and he's doing it. And again, worth saying, more minutes than anybody else this season for us, Lewis Stevenson. By I think a bit of a fair chunk as well. Like, really does deserve credit for that. He's not getting man of the match.
Despite me being the only person on this podcast who's actually older than him as well.
Well, this is it. Like, you know, for all the stuff at the kind of, I'm going to call it uninformed criticism about, you're putting contracts out, you're bringing in guys at this age. He's basically played as near as makes no difference every minute of the season up till this point.
To refer to them again, in the laughing stock stakes of who was it? The Evan Sofer, is it? One of the PAR's new board members. It was like, we're not going to dish out 3-year contracts to 28-year-olds, and then you sign 33-year-old Victor Wanyama because all their younger players are dross. But again, what I was going to say, just to take this back to Rovers related matters, I felt like Lewis Vaughan coming off the bench had a really, really solid performance again. It's great to see him.
So good, man.
But yeah, it just elevates us up a level.
He's so good. It's just like,
and I'm just so happy to see him back playing football. I felt like saying that the other night. Like, I'm genuinely sitting there like, yeah, this is just great to watch. It's just so enjoyable. I feel like with the way the game ended, I think we were just a bit unlucky because unlike the last game at New Douglas Park, they obviously came back into it a wee bit. I feel like yesterday would have been a good opportunity if the timing had been right. You get on your guys like Kai Montague, Lewis Gibson, be able to utilise them a bit more. I think George Coutau's just a bit unfortunate in that Josh Mullins performed so well at right wing back there before, and Jordan Doherty's also a right wing back or can play there, so that just means he's going to be the natural omission from the squad. But yeah, just there was no points of failures across that team yesterday.
It would have been nice for him to come on just to hear the Accies announcer once again call him Kai Montague.
I like that the Accies announcer at the start of the game referred to them specifically as John Rankin's Hamilton Accies. Like, read the room, man. Like, that. This is not what your audience wants to hear.
But he made a comment of whoever you're supporting, get right behind them. It's like, you should not be encouraging the away fans to get behind their teammate. Like,
they'd not fit in well at Queen's Park with their leading questionnaires.
Yeah, just again,
they've got faction wars at Queen's Park now with the young teams, aren't they?
That's so funny.
Thing I've never heard before, when they made their substitution just after it had gone 3-0, he started announcing the substitution by going, right. He's like, just a really tiny
Joey,
little
that's
turn
on
of
a
phrase,
podcast.
like, yeah, everyone around me looked round like, never left. It's like, right, coming on for Accies. Yeah.
There you go, Allan. That's what you need to do next Saturday.
Right. I
I
think
will not be referring to him as Scott Brown's Air United, I can tell you that much.
The lesser Scott Brown.
Right,
Right, thank you, everybody. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, if you do choose to do that. Odd. Anyway, there is no midweek fixture for the Rovers this week. We've had a lot of them recently, but we will be back before the weekend to preview that visit of Ayr United and everything that goes with it. So we will see you then. Thanks again. Goodbye.